Welcome back to my channel. It's Candace with a K here, where I normally talk books, beauty, and kicks. Let's talk about this book, okay? Just finished Ace of Spades by Faridah Àbíké-Íyímídé. I'm so sorry if I butchered your name, but girl, let's talk about it. I've been seeing this book around. Been seeing it on everything. Been seeing people posting about it. I love a good YA novel, so that doesn't bother me. But I was like, you know what? I'll get around to it eventually. It's been sitting on my phone forever. And I was taking a flight somewhere and I didn't have service, obviously. And I was like, you know what? Let's start it. So I started it. And then it kind of took me up a while to kind of really get into it. But then once I got into it, I was into it. So the book follows two Black students who attend a predominantly white institution or a predominantly white high school, same thing. And it really chronicles their experiences in this white school and how being the only is not always a good thing. So that's all I'm gonna leave you with. Before I get deep into it, I want to tell everybody out there that I would recommend this book. I did give it a 5-star, and I will explain why I gave it a 5-star at the end of this video. But I am going to be dropping all kinds of spoilers, all kinds of details. We are really getting into this book. So if you have not read the book, this will be your time to skedaddle. If you read the book, please stay tuned because here we go. Now that we are here, let's get into the juice and the crux of everything. So Chi and Devon are two characters that are very similar yet very different. So similarly, they have this affinity for boys, and but they also have an affinity and they're like exploring their sexuality, as we see in the book. We also, their commonalities are being star students and excelling, one in more of a spotlight role than the other. And then we also see that, you know, a commonality that they share is and another commonality that they share is that they attend this school, Nevis. Where they differ is socioeconomically, and oftentimes we see that in private schools where they are either, Black students specifically, are either extremely affluent or they are there on scholarship or financial aid or some type of assistance. So we see that duality in private schools. So I really do appreciate Faridah doing this in this book. So when they both become prefects, which very Harry Potter, right? I was like, okay, this is interesting. Now, when the text messages started to come, I felt like I was in an episode of Gossip Girl. I was like, okay, XOXO, like what, you know, come on, aces. So it was very Gossip Girl-like. And at first I was kind of like, okay. Then when Chi was chased and when pictures started to surface of Devon, I was like, okay, this is very Pretty Little Liars. Like, okay. But it all comes together. First, let's talk about how Devon has a roster sweetheart, okay? First it was Scotty. Then it was Dre. Then it was Terrell. I'm like, okay, if dating was this easy as a teen, how come I didn't do it? Like, what? It was just so many men in and out of his life for somebody who was still closeted. It's like, oh, it's just easy for him to get them, you know? Jeez. I do appreciate the exchange that he had with his mother in the book where she's like, I know you was gay. Carry on. And so as I was reading the book, I was like, okay, this is crazy. I initially thought Scotty was tied up in it somehow. And then I thought, okay, Dre is tied in, because how is he getting the information from this school? Not to later find out that Terrell was tied into it. Kind of had my ideas about him, but I didn't want to assume, since my first two assumptions were wrong. So I kind of was like, okay, maybe he's not. So then I think for Chi specifically, the whole thing with Jamie and her being in love with her bestie, but not really being able to express that, and then having to be okay with it when he decided to date somebody else, was kind of like, girl, you are a glutton for punishment, because why would you put yourself through that? That is just so unnecessary. And I was completely turned off from Jamie when he tried to play her for dummy, when she's having, you know, these anxieties around thinking they killed this girl that they hit. And he was like, what girl? Oh, the girl you hit? You know, like really playing her for fool. And I was like, this is where we draw the line. So then here we go. We fast forward, and where Devon and Chi kind of link up, and they're now trying to work together to uncover things. And so this is where I really got into the book, because I was like, okay, here we go. Them realizing together, when we fast forward to this stakeout, and they come to realize that the girl that she thinks she hit is still alive, and Devon is uncovering the morals and the historical figures and factors that make up Nevis and why Nevis operates the way it does, was not in a sense triggering, but it was very illuminating to see that this is not an anomaly. I've been really considering and thinking of the ways that private education and privatizing education is essentially going to exclude a large portion of us from these types of institutions, and how eventually it is going to be nearly impossible for all of us to be on a similar playing field. We already know that there are extreme disparities in education, and we know that racism is rooted in almost every single inch and fabric of this country. So my mind was just spinning, and it was mind blown, because private education plays a part in it all, and people try to not act like it does, but it does. Okay. So even seeing that being touched on, the power, the privilege, despite class, like she comes from money, okay? She shouldn't be susceptible to these same things, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Anyways, so seeing them uncover that, I was like, oh my gosh. Then when Terrell made his admission of knowing that it was Computer 17, my heart did sink, because here is Devon trying to confide in somebody and trying to talk to this person and talk to this man, and he's a narc. He's on the inside. He's been the spy, and that was just really heartbreaking. And then this is where I kind of was like, Terrell. Because when Chi goes over to Belle's house to kind of explain things to Belle, Belle has this cat. And then when Terrell has this cat, I'm like, who does the cat belong to, and why do y'all both have a cat? This is just thought process and how it's working, right? Like, none of it makes sense, but it makes sense to me. Just seeing that and seeing how that unfolded, crazy. Finally, when they decide to go forth in trying to expose Nevis, and they decide to go to the station, I already from jump, I was like, this is not going to work. You're in the town with these people, white people, no tea, no shade, maybe, are everywhere, and their racism exudes all fields. Their reach is vast, And so I just was very nervous of that when the idea first came about. So when they finally get to the party and everybody is transforming into these masks, which they insinuate kind of looks like the KKK, I was like, see, this is what I mean, how you really can't trust people, and how the headmaster was really about to put a gun to this child's head to kill her. Like, the insidiousness of it all is mind-blowing, because at the end of the day, these are children. Like, what? And I mean, racism has no age, race, color, creed, but you are going to kill a child just to maintain and uphold white supremacy? And I mean, that's kind of disrespectful now to say out loud, because we see it all day long. Emmett Till, the bombing of the church, the many children that have been found in the bottom of rivers and bottom of lakes and just dead and murdered. But still, it's very mind-blowing to see it and read it and say it out loud. In my review of this book, I really liked it. I've seen mixed reviews about it, and I've seen people be like, but my personal opinion of it was that it was excellent. And it is because I have worked in private education and have had similar sentiments about these things. So my connection to it is a little deeper, and I can see it for what it's worth and see how race and racism just is an influx into these institutions, and how they maintain and they remain in these spaces, and how it is at the hands and the price of excluding us and just diminishing all parts of us. They can't stand to see one of us excel. And you can feel it, you can see it, you understand it, and it was apparent in this book. And that message alone, I love it. Power and privilege are such deadly things together, and Nevis Academy had to burn to the ground for us, or for these people to realize that. And as the book said, this is not the only school or place that was doing it. So it goes beyond just one space. It is all spaces. I love that despite everything, the book doesn't just end. And there is some resolve in that they've created this organization to shield and protect other Black kids who are potentially going down this path. I'm not saying that private school is not good for Black children. However, what I am saying is that if the private school is not putting forth multicultural education and pushing for things that are beyond the canon and beyond just European history, if it's not inclusive, and we're talking about inclusivity from the student body to the curriculum to the staff and faculty to the posters on the wall to the janitors to there needs to be inclusivity touched everywhere. And if it's not doing that, then it's not inclusive. And that is why I connected so hard to this book, and I think it's so great. And I gave it 5 stars because it's just a great message. Very long-winded review. Thank you for staying here. If you are not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in my next video.